Hey, so no rooms available this week for the Roundtable, so we're doing a homeless Roundtable this week. So I'm just going to walk around, plop down next to people at their desk, and ask them what kind of movie stuff they want to talk about. Let's go. Dave.
Okay. Hey.
What do you want to talk about?
I mean, listen, I can't stop thinking about this freaking Channing Tatum thing, right? Like, is this going to go away by the time this freaking airs?
Channing Tatum thing.
I know, man. I don't know what's happening because he was, like, so excited. He was so excited about being Gambit that it made me excited, even though I wasn't even sure that he was right for it. I'm like, you know what? If him being Gambit is the only way to make Gambit happen, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm gonna be perfectly honest about this whole situation.
Okay.
Never been an enormous Channing Tatum fan.
I could see that, yeah.
I've also never been a big Gambit fan.
Oh,
I think
Gambit's rad.
Look, I mean, he's rad in the sense that like any comic book, I feel like any comic book hero that's kind of smart ass.
Yeah.
And is a very specific.
Yeah.
Kind of smart ass. Like he's a gambler who says "mon chéri." It's
yeah.
Like, no, I'm 13 and I dig that. I'm gonna try to say that to a girl and see what happens.
But he has such a cool set of skills though that people didn't have.
Yeah, no, he could blow shit up. Like, and I always wanted to. I cut the fingers off my batting gloves when I was a kid, so I could have like Gambit gloves. You know, like I was into them but you know, as you get older, it's like, you don't really.
But he was a thief. He was so cool. Like in Extinction Agenda, the comic book, he got out. He got everyone out because he's a thief and he's rad and he's so physical and he's got so many cool elements and he's so dangerous.
Physical.
He's super physical. He's Magic Mike super physical.
So the thing that you want to talk about is Channing Tatum is probably out of the Gambit movie.
Yeah. I mean, the idea was that he was going to start, even so much so that he was at Comic-Con.
He was super
with
pumped.
Yeah. And now apparently he's walking away from it. I mean, it isn't finalized, but everyone's pretty much reporting like it's finalized, and I don't know why. I just want to know why. I just need an explanation. Okay.
Let's do that. Let's make shit up.
Yeah.
Why do you think? Out of all the possible reasons, what is your most likely scenario as to what drove Channing Tatum away? Because he was like palling around with Ryan Reynolds on Twitter and shit at Comic-Con. Like he was wearing a Gambit T-shirt. Like he was so into it, and he was a producer on the project too. Like he was the one that really got the project green lit.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, most likely, I think there's two scenarios. One is I know he's been trying to be a director for a really long time. He tried to direct the last Magic Mike movie that fell through, so maybe he got an offer, maybe even to do like 23 Jump Street, which I know is a little extreme, but who knows? Or maybe it's just a situation where like, you know, he's got 22 Jump Street, right? He's got the Jump Street. You know, he was going to go into this. He might, and they still that stupid rumor of that Ghostbusters movie with Chris Pratt is coming back.
I mean, look, Channing Tatum and Chris Pratt as Ghostbusters, like, sure.
Why not?
Great.
Yeah.
But I don't know that precludes him from doing
Gambit. I think that's the main thing is it's so frustrating because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And they've clearly gone pretty far in this scenario with him being, even so far as he's like learning card tricks and stuff.
Well, supposedly he was doing screen tests with Lea Seydoux because she was going to be the female lead. So
exactly.
It's like they're way down the road and he just splits, which it's confusing.
It really is. So I just kind of want to know what's going on. I mean, listen, I think there's still hope, and you know, who knows? This might all be defunct, you know, at some point. But I don't know. I just want to know. I want to know.
I want to know. The obvious question then becomes, who else do we want to play Gambit? Because if the movie is still going forward, which the word is at the moment it is still going forward, who else is going to play Gambit? Because you were real excited about Channing Tatum.
Yeah, you know, I like him a lot. I think he's got a likable. I mean, I've even liked him since like G.I. Joe when everyone literally hated him. Because I think
that's when he was the best. I think he's gotten consistently worse since
that's funny.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah, I think the thing about him is he's a good movie star. He's not a great actor, but he doesn't need to be. You know, it's like same thing like Keanu Reeves. He's got that kind of thing where I think he's just likable and he's you know, he can be an action hero. He's got good physicality, and I think mostly it was just because it seemed like they were only going to do Gambit because he had interest in it. So I don't know. I don't know who they're going to pick now. I mean, I'm really I'm torn now because I need Gambit in these movies.
You need Gambit in the movies.
I do. And I don't want Taylor Kitsch to do it again as much as I don't dislike Taylor Kitsch like everyone else, but I think like it was such a kind of disaster, that movie.
You don't, that's a turd that you don't want the stink of on you.
It's not like bringing William Hurt back to play, Thunderbolt Ross. Yeah. That's totally different.
You're right. It's 100% different. I don't even know why you brought it up.
You know, because they're still bringing him back even though it was a failed movie.
Yeah, that's true. They're not bringing Edward Norton. If Edward Norton all of a sudden played the Hulk again, that would be
freaky. Ugh, that'd be weird.
Yeah, no, I don't want that.
Yeah. I'll just say because I like him, Theo James. There you go. Who
is Theo James?
He's in like the Divergent movies, I guess, or something. He's a British guy. He's in the
Yeah.
Underworld movies now.
Yeah.
I like him from the show called Bedlam from back at BBC. But that's just because of random name.
No, I'll take it.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I got nothing.
Look, those guys are always pretty good. Those guys that are like, wait, who's that guy again? Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly.
Those guys always end up being excellent.
I think that's what they have to do. I think it's probably best to have a less known person if you're going to go, if you're not going to have Channing Tatum.
Well, and that's if they, and again, it keeps going back to the Tatum genuinely wanted to be Gambit.
Yeah.
And so if this is a project that was living off of that, like it needs to go away.
Right.
Unless there's a director attached or a writer attached or somebody who is genuinely really into Gambit.
Right.
And wants to passionately make this Gambit film the way that Channing Tatum seemed like he wanted to, then it needs to go away. Put it down, come back to it later when you've got somebody on board that really gives a shit.
100%, because I don't think Fox is really interested in making like other movies outside of X-Men. I mean, Wolverine was because Wolverine's like the most popular X-Men, and Hugh Jackman is awesome. But remember they were going to do like a Magneto movie.
Well, it was the Origins, the
X-Men
Origins Wolverine and they were going to do an X-Men Origins Magneto.
Exactly.
And that script ended up being First Class.
Which is amazing, and I think that worked out great. But even like Deadpool would have never happened had a unknown person not known as Ryan Reynolds linked that footage. Right. That's literally the only reason it happened.
Brian Reynolds released that, I think.
Exactly. He's amazing, that guy.
He's a talented guy.
He's great.
Knows exactly how to drop internet videos.
Real great. So I don't know. Right. So hopefully, I hope Gambit stays in the mix because I loved him as a kid, and now they're finally doing stuff right and wrong at the same time. I know that people don't like the new footage of or the new stuff from X-Men, but I love Psylocke's new costume. I love Storm has a mohawk. They're finally going there, and
I'm really excited about Storm's mohawk. Psylocke's costume looking exactly the way it does in the. It looks like this.
It's amazing.
The fact that it looks exactly like that.
I know.
Kind of weirds me out.
Oh man, I love it.
But we'll see.
I love it because with X-Men they sort of established first that whole like we're gonna do what we want to make this the real world. Everyone had black leather. There's some more yellow spandex. There's even a joke in the first movie about that. And now they're literally doing exactly the comic book.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's Singer too. It's the same crew.
Yeah, love
it. What are you gonna do? Hey Mark.
Hey Clint.
What's happening?
Not much.
Homeless today.
Oh no.
Can you believe it?
That's terrible.
Got no room. So what do you want to talk about?
Plenty to talk about.
Let's talk about.
For one thing, I am completely invested in Mr. Robot right now.
It's a TV show.
Yeah, and it's on the USA Network, which what the hell, right?
I love it. Cable networks, I love it when occasionally they hit one that's just like holy shit, that's a good show. How did that happen, USA?
When I first saw the ads for it, I was like, oh, what the hell is this bullshit? Yeah. And I kept getting it advertised directly at me on the web, right. Because they're very focused. And I was like, okay, you know what?
They know you're the type that would like a show called Mr. Robot.
Every advertisement I've been getting for the past month has been for this one show. So I IMDb'd it, and it's some showrunner this is like pretty much the first thing he's done. I think he's done a couple other things, but nothing like this major. Right. And then it's Rami Malek as, I can't always mess up his pronunciation, but he's Akmun Ra in the Night at the Museum movies. That guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a little character actor, always playing little bit parts and everything. He's the lead in it. And then it's got Christian Slater thrown in the mix.
What else do you want?
Then
I think we can cut there.
And then what snagged me was it's all about hackers, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the confusing thing for me about the show is because all I've seen of it are the posters. Right? And all the ads and the billboards and everything. It's like, your privacy is no longer private.
I think it's good marketing because it snags you.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of a little misleading on what the show is, but not that much.
Well, I expected a show called Mr. Robot to be sort of like, like if we had a dark small wonder, that would be awesome, I think. And but if it's about hackers and like stealing,
right. So what I assumed was, this is like the CSI crime net,
right?
Whatever. It's gonna be it's on USA, so it's gonna be like an episodic period,
technology,
whatever, like enhance and bullshit like that. What made me go back to it is a buddy of mine actually does penetration testing for financial servers, which is white hat hacking, right? Yeah. And we were just sitting down drinking, and he was like, yeah, have you watched Mr. Robot yet? And I was like, no, but it's everybody's coming at me about it. And he's like, yeah, I haven't either, but a coworker of mine watched it and just said it was about us. And so I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And so I finally watched it. I'm hooked.
What can you compare it to? It's about.
So here's what it is. It's basically, I'm going to use a lot of book references.
Oh, no.
So it might be over your head, but it's basically William Gibson meets Chuck Palahniuk meets a sprinkling of Bret Easton Ellis in there.
Okay, see, I got all three
When
of
I
those.
say Gibson, I mean Suarez, which is the modern version of Gibson. He wrote the books the Demon trilogy. But on top of that, it sort of builds this crazy weird character who's he's got all sorts of anxieties. He's in his own head. The opening to the whole show is him saying, "Hello, friend." And he's talking to us, and he explains how he's created us, the audience, as a way to cope with his paranoia.
So the audience
is a creation,
is a construct of his own paranoia.
Yeah,
interesting.
And so he's just constantly talking to us.
How does that?
And it's just like it grips you from point one. And the closest thing that I've come to in a modern sense, and at least in a television sense, to compare it to is True Detective. It
Really?
reminds me of that first season of True Detective that was just so engrossing from the moment it started. And it's shot beautifully. The first 3 episodes, each episode plays like a movie.
Yeah.
And the score is just this crazy retro techno score. It's beyond good. And Rami he's created this whole new character that is just, it's the most intriguing thing I have ever seen. It's hypnotic. And then the villains in it are the most insidious bad guys I've seen in a long time.
Horrible
and I don't want to
sons of
spoil anything for anybody.
Hacking movies,
it's tough.
it's such a trick
right?
to do good hacking, because even like the obviously there's like hackers and like existenz and like the cyberpunk stuff.
Fantastical.
Yeah. So like and there's all those like going into the Ethernet cable.
Right. It's like,
and,
what was
Lawnmower Man,
Black Hat
Black
that just
Hat
came out, where they have to show,
which is such a cheap way to do it. And then even like on the cheap end of it.
The thing is, though, it's not. It's very expensive.
Take it easy.
Sorry, I'm good. It's a very expensive way to do it. You know, to like create these crazy CG.
It's a very expensive
like,
way to like functionally make that, but
to make it
narratively,
entertaining, right?
it's a very.
And
my point is, even in movies, like look at movies like Clear and Present Danger, when he's trying to like get in there and find stuff, and it's just like Harrison Ford typing on a screen for a whole sequence that ends with him like in a printout going ha. So
we're in.
Yeah. So cyber movies in general are such a trick.
They're tough.
I mean, what is a good example of one?
So, I mean, up until now, Hackers.
Just Mr. Robot?
Hackers is like the best thing.
Hackers is so
but
because
it gets the culture completely wrong. It gets the mentality of the people who do it and the need to do it completely wrong. They turn them into like punk rockers out of a Prodigy music video, and it's fun. It's a classic
time
movie.
We were all fine with.
Yeah, and then
Hacked Planet.
Yeah.
But these are all movies that took place before all this stuff kind of became commonplace.
Yeah,
like
and
before we could wrap our minds around the act of hacking something.
And you have to, that's definitely a thing. Before it was like this thing that just sort of the geeky kids did, but now it's something that, if you want to make a change in your world, you have to do. And so you have this huge population of the world, maybe not America, but the huge population of the world who do it.
Well, so how is this show different? Because I think a lot of the shows that a lot of the movies that we associate with hacking and doing it well came prior, like when we were still on dial-up,
Right.
And so like they came prior to this technology becoming more common knowledge. So what is it about this show that does it well now in post all of this knowledge that we have?
It's they don't talk down to the audience when
they assume that we all have the knowledge.
They assume we have all the knowledge. They touch in on small things every so often. Like they cover why they don't give a shit about firewalls.
Sure.
Briefly, they give you little indicators. I mean, he's created us as an audience, so he's explaining stuff to us. Yeah. But they don't talk down to us. They don't assume that we need a big graphical user interface to explain what's going on.
To imagine what the internet is like.
They actually use the actual tools, but what I liked is in the most recent episode, 5th maybe.
Doesn't matter.
They don't use computers at all in a hack. They just social engineer it. And all they're doing is just basically going into people's history and using the public knowledge that's on like Facebook to get people to do things, and basically just through conversation convincing people to do things. These are concepts that are not unique to today. They've been used throughout history, and through that they've basically used this platform of hacking and technology and information security to discuss this greater concept of who's really in control. What is the actual like thing that gives somebody power,
and who's Mr. Robot?
Yes.
I mean, all of the best movies about anything aren't actually about that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So a movie about hacking that's actually about power.
Yeah, this is a movie about hacking that's about this character. Yeah. It's really a character piece, and
he just happens to be a hacker.
And the hacking in it just so happens to be about a person who does penetration testing for
every
large
time.
security.
I got to stop you. That's the second time you said penetration testing. We got to stop. I think that's a pretty good commercial for Mr. Robot. Go check it out. Hey guys.
Hi.
Homeless Roundtable this week.
You don't say.
Thanks for holding this mic too. I didn't even have anything to talk about, much less a room to talk about it in. So what do you guys feel like talking about?
I want to talk about Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill.
Always up for talking about
Mark Hamill. Now, you might be thinking, oh, so you want to talk about Star Wars. Like Star Wars is all well and good, but everyone already knows Mark Hamill's going to be in Star Wars.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Batman. Because
he's back in Batman?
Back in 2011, he was like, okay, I'm not going to be voicing the Joker anymore.
Hasn't he said that like 3 or 4 times now?
Yeah, and it kind of stuck-ish. Earlier this year, he was in Arkham Knight, which is, an awesome game. Yeah. But he had always said that, if he was going to come back, it was going to be for one specific thing, for The Killing Joke. And they announced The Killing Joke, and then they announced Mark Hamill's back as the Joker, and it was like, oh my god. But what they haven't announced yet is who's going to be playing Batman. So Kevin Conroy? Hello, please?
I feel like it needs to be.
Right, because wouldn't it be weird if it was Mark Hamill back as the Joker, who, by the way, I think is, like, personally for me, my favorite Joker. But, Kevin Conroy has to come back for Batman.
I think
would agree with that.
Otherwise it's not going to be some sort of 5-pointed star of like nerdy joy.
Right?
Like you got Mark Hamill, you got Joker, you got The Killing Joke, it's animated, but you got to have Kevin Conroy or it's just not going to hit the pentafecta
it's
or
like
whatever.
The pentafecta?
The
Is this a
quintafecta?
Well, yeah, because
Why wouldn't they be able to get Kevin Conroy?
Oh,
has he said 3 or 4 times he's not going to be Batman anymore?
The question isn't would they be able to get him, because of course they would. Yeah. The question is, are they like, oh, well, Jason O'Mara, he's been voicing it now for the last couple things. Are they going to go with someone else that's been voicing it? It needs to be like getting the band back together. Right?
It's
that's
like,
what I think.
Sure, there's been a new bassist in that band for a long time, but when you're touring on the original album, come on.
Yeah, you got to go back to insert famous bassist's name.
Don't say
here.
Cliff Burton. He's dead.
Yeah. The other question is, how are they going to actually pad out the story? Because The Killing Joke is not a terribly long story. A lot of really important things happen. It's how Barbara Gordon, goes from being Batgirl to being Oracle.
Yeah. No, a lot of cool iconic stuff happens in that, but it's a thin volume as well. Yeah. So how I'm wondering how they're going to actually pad it out into. Well, is it going to be theatrical, or is it just going to be because there's HBO has been doing a lot, and I think Netflix has plans to kind of start doing this as well, in making things that are in like the 45-minute-ish sort of range.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be another one of their animated direct to Blu-ray, digital, whatever movies. That's at least as far, because
So
right
like
now, Mark
72
Hamill
minutes
is the
with the
only
credits
thing.
is like the cutoff.
I mean,
Yeah.
Right now, Mark Hamill is pretty much the only thing that's been announced. Just there will be the movie, and Mark Hamill will be back as Joker, and that's practically everything they've said.
And that's all that matters, really.
True.
So we've got yet another sort of young adult book being adapted to the screen, but this one's like OG because it's Little Women.
Little Women.
Little Women,
Okay.
the 1968, gangbusters young adult novel or whatever,
Yeah.
right? But like Little Women really, I feel like hit that YA because it's about like 10 to 15-year-old girls for the most part, and then
Yeah,
they
but, like,
grow up and get married.
Back then, when they're 10 to 15, aren't you essentially like 40?
Well, not 10, 15 though, yeah.
You are in Game of Thrones.
But okay, so it's being adapted by Michael Weatherly, who we all know and love, from NCIS. He's acting in NCIS, and last year he got a sort of development producing deal with CBS Studios, and this is one of the projects that his.
Who is he in NCIS?
He's Agent Tony
DeNozo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he's very wholesome looking.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
His character
FBI
also
looking.
really likes movies. He's always
does.
making movie
Oh,
references.
constantly.
So
Straight over Mark Hamill's head. Not Mark Hamill. Mark
Harmon.
Thank you.
So Michael Weatherly is producing it, which I guess, given that he has this overall deal with CBS, makes sense. It's based on a script by Alexis Jolie or Jolie, pronunciation undetermined,
Yeah.
successful like Blacklist writer. So I guess there's a lot of excitement there. And it's an adaptation of Little Women, but takes place in like post-apocalyptic Philadelphia, where four half-sisters have to learn to survive this huge conspiracy without killing it, which is just obviously shamelessly cribbed from the original.
Yeah. I mean, like that's gonna be like word for word
That's
from
how
the
I
book,
always pictured
right?
Little Women.
The comments all over the internet have been, mostly pretty derisive of the whole idea because, frankly, the why bother using the Little Women IP if it's just about four sisters trying to like survive?
It's one of those things like it's you talk about like I mean there's movies that are like well it's Romeo and Juliet except it's in Miami,
Right.
Like I mean you could just make it basically the same story, and I mean you didn't call it Taming of the Shrew, you called it 10 Things I Hate About You, and like it was just a different, like why take the same group and just make it.
The thing is, I'm unconvinced that this can possibly be the same group given those circumstances.
Well, there's nothing about the story of Little Women that begs for it to be set in post-apocalyptic Philadelphia. Like if it were
dystopian anyway.
Dystopian anything. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just as unfamiliar. Dystopian is just as unfamiliar as back then to us, and
yeah, like
I don't say that as a good thing.
I mean, yes and no, because I think there's a lot of familiarity with that era, at least from like what our pop culture how our pop culture represents that era, and every dystopia is sort of different anyway. But it's like there's nothing.
But we've never experienced either, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I know they're they might as well both be science fiction.
Yes.
Let us know what you think about dystopian Little Women in the comments down below. Also, what else did we talk about? We talked about Mr. Robot. You guys weren't around for this. We talked about Gambit and our man Channing Tatum.
Mark Hamill.
Checking out. We talked about Mark Hamill and Mark Harmon and Kevin Conroy and the Joker. All of those things. The Killing Joke. Let us know what you think about all that stuff in the comments down below. Click, like, and subscribe. And apologies. Humble apologies for this being a homeless roundtable. But it is a roundtable.
Yes.
Yep.